Okay, so continuing on, I'm going to go to a floor plan so we can start to add some curtain walls for a building. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a curtain wall, and I'm just going to use the storefront one for now. And again, these work like walls where you want to connect them to levels so they kind of move up and down, and then you can just draw it in. And then, again, if you can click on it and then you can move it so it's more attached. It's more attached. And then here, you can see it goes in. And then if you wanted to, you could create more. Usually, and again, you have that same when you're drawing. If I go back to that, you still see how you don't have when you do other wall types, you have that location line. This one for curtain walls, it's always the center. It's always drawn in the center, no matter what. You can't deviate from that. So sometimes you got to draw and then move it a little bit if you wanted to. And then you could use the trim tool to trim stuff. But you'll see when they trim, they don't actually kind of meet. They kind of do this little center kind of thing where there's like a little piece right there missing. And that's what a regular mullion. You can add corner mullions to fix that. And I'm just going to mirror these so it's easier. And then mirror this one. Pick the wrong one. I can just move this over. And you always want the glass towards the outside. So you can see that that's the glass right there. So for this one, I need to flip the wall so the glass is towards the outside. And then here I need to flip as well. And I think this one's done. Yeah. So now I can trim these two. There. So now if I go to look at it in 3D, you can see how it's starting to look, and you can see how that kind of mullion joint here starts to get a little crazy. With how they actually join. See, they didn't trim properly. That corner, I think I forgot to trim that one. But now you can see how it joins itself. So what you can do sometimes for that is like you can, if you want like a real actual corner condition, you could for the border type, for the vertical one, you can change it to an L, a type of corner mullion, which you can see here they have a couple of corner, either V, L, or quad. I want to make them L corners. And border type is vertical, which is that horizontal, which would be the top and the bottom. So that's why I'm only doing the vertical. So you can see how it starts to clean it up. So it looks a little bit more smoother. And that's the actual condition type that you'd have in real life for a corner mullion. That's typically what they use. Or the other type of corner mullions that come with the project itself. And you can always click on a mullion itself, which I'll actually get to in a minute. Well, actually in a later tutorial, but you can click on a mullion, and when it's unpinned, you can edit its type, and you can actually duplicate it, and create new distances, new types to them. So this was the corner mullion that I duplicated, but like if I click on this type of mullion here, I can unpin it, edit its type, and again I can duplicate it and I can update its dimensions. you know, how thick it is and the width. So you can see that this is a 2.5 inch by 5. So the thickness is the 5 inches. So I can always change that. And then these total 2.5. So width on side 1, width on side 2. So if you zoom in, you know, from here to here is obviously the 2.5. I mean the 5 from front to back, so you could adjust that if wanted, and then from here to here, and it always, so when you click on the grid line, that's the center. So when you're looking at that inch and a quarter, that's inch and a quarter up from the grid line and inch and a quarter down from the grid line. So you always want to keep that in mind as well. And then you notice too, as I forgot to mention, you can see here when I click on a mullion, they're always pinned, as I talked about in the previous video when you do a storefront. And you see, like, if I go to edit type, I can't duplicate it or anything. But once you unpin it, you can now edit and duplicate it and stuff like that. And, you know, bring in different, and then if you do this one, you can see there's a circular mullion or a rectangular mullion. And then for the corner mullions, you know, and then, you know, if you do click on the mullion itself from here and it's unpinned, you know, you have the different, so for the inner mullions, you can only do a circular or a rectangular one. And then for the corner ones and the borders, I don't know if this one gives you that. This one may not. Yeah. So basically for the border ones, which are the top, the bottom, and then, you know, either the end or the corner, depending on your situation. When you click on those, that's when you get a quad corner or a L corner, circular, and then you get the rectangular and circular mullion, and then a trapezoid corner or a V corner that you can choose from and see how they look. So that's that type of, so that's that. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this floor, and I'm actually going to duplicate it. Well, I'll leave it as 12 inches on the bottom. I want to copy it and paste it to, I'm actually, while I'm doing this, I'm going to pause the video and then resume once I kind of set up what I want to set up. Okay, so I kind of set up what I wanted to set up, and you can see here, basically what I did is I added floors, you know, for the kind of middle floors, and then the roof kind of floor itself, if I had a flat roof on this building. And then you'll notice, so a lot of times if you look at like a lot of high-rise buildings or glass buildings, you'll see like a middle panel. Well, first going back to the floors, and I made these floors thicker. I put these as a 2-foot floor to kind of represent the thickness for structure. So as I was saying, if you ever look at you know, full glass wall buildings, you sometimes notice that, you know, every so many feet you get like a little skinny line that are like solid panels that you can't see through, and that's where the space between, you know, ceiling and floor is, you know, the plenum space that holds all the structure and systems. So that's what I'm going to show you how you do here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to tab and unpin my grid lines, because I know I have to put separate ones in. So I'm going to set it up for this one, and then I'm going to show you an easier way that you can do it for the rest quickly. So I know my floor to floor right now, I have it as 10 feet. So I'm going to, you know, just to quickly, I'm going to put this one at 8 feet, which it's already at. And then this one, I'm going to make it 2 feet from the previous one. As you can see, it goes from the previous mullion. It's, you know, it goes from that previous mullion. And then this one, I am going to go 8 feet from that, this mullion here. And then I gotta add, a grid. Actually, gotta add 2 more. So I'm gonna add this one, and that's gonna be 2 feet from this, and then this one is gonna be 2 feet from the top for that top piece. So now you start to see what those spandrel panels are, and sometimes those spandrel panels, they may not be the same width that these are at here. Like so that sometimes maybe they're doubled or it's one big long panel. If that's the case, then you can come in and start to click on the grids and remove, those vertical ones. So now you can get something like that if you wanted to do it like that. I'm actually going to edit this storefront a little bit, and I'm going to do the vertical spacing. I'm going to give it a little bit more space. I'm actually going to do, let's see what 8x8 looks like, since the horizontals are already at 8 feet. That's good enough. That's a little bit better. Looks a little bit better for clarity purpose to see it better. But you can't tell now, but this is actually still a glass panel in there. So I'm going to show you how you can turn it to glazing. And basically what I want to do is I want to select all of them. To make it easier, I'm going to isolate just this window. And instead of having to try to tab and click each one, I'm just going to isolate it and then rotate to the front. And then highlight it like this. Then I can come to filter, check none, and click on curtain panels. And then I'm going to hold down control and do the same thing for this. And the same thing for this. And then filter, check none, curtain panels. And then I'm going to unpin them. And then I can come here and I can switch system panel to a solid. And then it'll turn it into a solid panel. So you can see it fills it in as a solid panel. So now if I come to realistic view, you can see that you get that spandrel kind of feeling. You can actually load in a spandrel panel, so that's a solid panel, but they actually have a spandrel panel in. So if you go to curtain wall panels, you can see that there's actually one for an empty panel. So it would just be an empty open space. So like if you had a curtain wall system, but you wanted an opening for a door that didn't have an actual door, you can do an empty panel. The glazed panel is what's just there, and then a solid panel. They did have a spandrel one. I thought they did. Maybe it's not there. Maybe it's something that you can download. I'm pretty certain it used to be in Revit itself, but I think it's something now that you have to actually download from Revit City to get like an actual spandrel panel. Or again, you can change the material to make it a spandrel panel. But what spandrel panels actually are in real life, it's like a solid glass that's not transparent. Instead of being like a solid piece of like this, it's more of like a glass material that's solid. But that's something that you could probably find on Revit City since it's not in Revit anymore. Or again, just take this solid panel and update its materiality as I show how to do in the materials tutorial. So I'm going to reset that. So I'm going to end this video here, and I'm going to show you how to quickly do the rest. The rest of the glasses, the surrounding ones, kind of quickly and easily.